This is the Team Objection podcast for October 31st, 2019, Halloween. It's episode 412, and we don't really have anything spooky planned. Shaun has a spooky shirt, so that's nice. I'm wearing black, but that's about it.
I'm colorful.
Yeah, that's not really how...
It didn't fit the mood. It's got orange in it. How's that?
Yeah, Halloween's not really about color. Orange is okay, but...
I blew it. I'm sorry.
I mean, at the same time, we also did a Halloween-themed episode or two back in the day. There's only so much to talk about it, especially Halloween. It's pretty straightforward, you know? You wear a costume, you get candy.
Yep.
That's it.
I watched The Nightmare Before Christmas recently. Reminded me that it's okay. It's not amazing. It's not terrible.
Mm-hmm.
It's okay.
It's not even that good.
That's what I mean. It's okay. It's fine.
Yeah.
The songs are decent.
It's fine. Have we ever talked about whether that's a Halloween movie or a Christmas movie?
I imagine we had to have, but
Some people are really willing to die on that hill, and I'm like, it's kind of both.
it is absolutely both.
Like, watch it when you want. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
All right. Well, anyways, that's enough Halloween chatter. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next time. This week, we're going to be doing what we basically talked about at the end of last week's episode. If you didn't see that one, you should probably start there because we're going down IGN's modified list of the 100 best video games of all time and dissecting it. Because by and large, it's bad. Not every pick is terrible. Some of them seem pretty reasonable. But we haven't even gotten to the most crucial ones yet, and I've been told they're terrible. I still have not cheated and looked ahead. I only know what number 50 is by accident. That's it. I have no clue.
I'm impressed. I have looked ahead a little bit.
Cheater.
They might not be as bad as they are weird and confusing, but I'll let you. Well, yeah, we'll figure that out today.
Yeah.
In defense of myself, you didn't tell me when we first pulled this up not to look ahead, so...
That's true. I do wonder, like, there were some picks in the... I hear things breaking downstairs. There are some picks in the top 100, like the 51 to 100 range, where I'm like, that's just bad and it shouldn't be on this list. I really hope there aren't that many of them in the 1 to 50. Like, you can argue position or whatever, but there better not be anything that shouldn't be on the list at all in this range.
We'll
Stay
see.
tuned.
Yeah.
Well, number 50 is Overwatch, and already I'm kind of like,
I guess games like this make me sad, and maybe I'm not the demographic, but games that have no single player at all, I'm like, it's not even a real game.
It's
Which
hard.
I know that's archaic. Everybody lives on the Fortnite, Overwatch, League of Legends thing now, but I feel like it's only half a game if all you have is multiplayer.
Yeah, and maybe this is just my age or just how I play video games. I've never gotten into multiplayer at all. I mean, my experience with multiplayer have been shooting games like Halo or Call of Duty. I walk into the field, get shot, and then respawn, and that's it. Or sports games I try to play online, where most of the time I'm going to get beat. Like, I'll win every once in a while, but not frequently. And so it's like, this isn't even fun. I'd rather play one player because it's actually fun that way.
it's also interesting that it's basically become expected to have both because you saw a lot of single-player focused franchises like, say, Uncharted, Tomb Raider, pick up a multiplayer mode because some people felt like without a multiplayer, they also weren't a complete package. I don't agree with that as much, but yeah, although I like Mass Effect's multiplayer.
I did too.
But now it's kind of like, yeah, not every game is still going to be $60. That price point's never going to change, apparently. And now you have to develop it with both of these modes in mind, as intricate as possible. It's like... I never really wanted to be in the video game business, but I certainly wouldn't want to today.
Yeah. I mean, the only way you're going to make your money with that fixed $60 price point is basically, here's half a game, buy the rest of it if you want it.
Yeah, or here's a bunch of cosmetic bullshit, buy our DLC, thanks, microtransactions.
Yep.
Great.
Yeah, pretty much.
Predatory practices, phenomenal. Overwatch is fine, I don't know about 50. I have no problem with it being on the list. It's been influential, and Blizzard's games are all pretty solid. It's been a cultural revolution in some way. 70s to me seems fine.
Yeah. It seems that a lot of people jumped on it and really liked it, but, it kind of had one of those flash in the pan things to me. I mean, I know people still play it, but it definitely doesn't have the talk and buzz that it used to.
Yeah, well, we'll see if that changes at BlizzCon here in just a few days after this releases, because the sequel's probably coming.
Yeah.
49 is Deus Ex. Not the sequels, the original. I haven't played it. I like the sequels. I played Human Revolution and liked it quite a bit.
I would be surprised if this is still the best one. But because it's the first one, I'm okay with it being like, we feel like this is the most influential. We're going to put it on the list. I don't have a lot bad to say about this pick.
No.
It's frequently on these kinds of lists, so.
I got no qualms with it. 48's Baldur's Gate 2. Haven't played it.
I've heard
Neither.
good things. It seems a little high for me. Top 50. But, yeah, fine. Fine.
I mean-
all this is fine. These, I mean, Overwatch is a little weird. All these are fine. And then you get to 47, which is Miss
I'm
Pac-Man.
just going to go ahead and put this on my camera so that people can see it.
And-
Obviously, if you're listening, you can't, but on YouTube, you can. There's the picture. That's what they've chosen to go with.
You know, I'm conflicted. What?
I almost feel it. So here's where you'd have to weigh this gameplay. Like, is it the best game ever made? No, it's really simplistic. Gameplay, though, or as far as cultural impact, I mean, Japan ran out of 100 yen coins because of this game. Like, everyone wanted to play it back when it was out there. Everyone. So, I don't know. I almost think it should be higher in a sense.
Yeah, this is where that lack of definition to list struggles, because influential-wise, I could absolutely see this. Yeah, like, it was one of the biggest arcade games at the time, no question. Like, this and Donkey Kong, I think you can count the original Pac-Man, whatever, fine. But, like, those two were, like, huge pioneers for that. And yet, if it's not about only influential, I don't know if it makes top 50.
Yeah, like I said, take Pac-Man when it came out, and it was basically like, okay, eat the dots. Miss Pac-Man, all right, let's throw a bow on them, add some different mazes and some fruits, and that was the game. Like, there really wasn't even a big improvement over the original Pac-Man, and yet this was just huge. Like they said in the article, people changed their commutes to come in early and stay late to play. People loved this.
I think the speed boost helped. I think it was faster than the original, and the original could be pretty plodded in the beginning, especially once you got good at it. I mean, newcomers were a different story, but I don't hate it. But again, I think it's just the lack of definition that hurts more than anything.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah.
46 is Counter-Strike 1.6. I obviously know Counter-Strike. I've never played any of them. If this is like the stick the flag in for the series, then maybe, because Counter-Strike's been among the most important shooters, but I can't really say one way or the other.
1.6, that's odd.
And now I've scrolled to 45, and I'm disappointed.
Yeah, so I don't know what to make of this. I will say, I don't remember, but I'm pretty sure Left 4 Dead 1 is not on this list.
I wouldn't imagine it is. Having both on here would be very surprising to me.
Therefore, this is a horrible pick.
Correct.
The first one, I enjoyed the second one. It got a lot of grief. I think a lot of it was undeserved. But the first one's better.
Yep.
It's actually better gameplay overall.
Left 4 Dead 2, by the way.
Oh, yeah,
For people who don't have the list. Yeah, I forgot to say it too. Left 4 Dead 2 was 45. Yeah, I mean, I adore the original Left 4 Dead. It will still be in my top 25 when we redo that list. I have no doubt about that. It's probably in the 10 to 15 range.
We got so much gameplay. If there's flaws, there wasn't enough maps. Like, we played those 4 maps, though, for endless hours, and the way that the AI changes, it's like a different experience every time.
And it's co-op, which is hard to come by. Yeah, the adaptive AI and the co-op meant that every experience was different, and it was just fun.
Yeah.
I remember playing that with you guys. I don't get a lot of co-op, unfortunately, as much as you guys do, but I remember playing that with you guys, and being generally spooked when you came around the corner and heard, like, the witch crying in the corner. You're like, uh-oh, this is going to be a problem. Like, it really sucked you in the fact that you really had to work together. And if somebody Leroy Jenkins their way through the level, they're dead, and they ain't coming back.
Yeah, because you go off on your own, there's no mechanisms to bring you back. You just die.
And I'm sure, like, I don't know when you played with us, but we had, like, a system down.
Yeah, oh yeah.
We were, like, professionals at one
Pretty
point,
much.
and, like, that was fun. And that's actually what I don't like about the second one is it's a lot harder to be consistent because of all the randomness and the, like, really difficult additions that they made. They don't really add a whole lot, but they make it a lot more random.
Too many specials, too many wide open areas. I understand that some people could camp out in spots in Left 4 Dead 1, and maybe that ruined the difficulties to some degree, but I enjoyed that. I enjoyed knowing a rush was coming and finding a place to hole up and fight back the best you could. Because on Expert, this game, like, the original was hard. On Expert, you basically got downed by certain things, like any shotgun blast from your teammate was putting you down, any special attack was putting you down. So it wasn't like a scary game, but you did feel really intense when you played it for the reasons Dave mentioned. 2 is fine, but...
1 felt tactical. Like, that's what you do in real life. You would find a place where you can kind of hold up, and when it's sort of clear, you move to the next spot. 2, there's so many examples of, okay, now you got to run through a horde, which, like, it makes it less... like, realistic, less tactical, and less fun. So I definitely have a issue with that one.
I'm sure the idea is it's the sequel. They did more things. They improved on some ideas, so that must be the one, but I think it's wrong.
Yeah, I just like the idea, like Shaun, like you said, you had to hold up. And these campaigns, when you did these things, they're good 20 minutes to half an hour long sometimes when you played it. So you felt consequences if you died, or you felt consequences if, like, you didn't get out It's like
Yep.
we just put a lot of time into this.
Yeah, there's no checkpoints other than the levels being divided up. So you either make it through the whole thing as a group or you start over again.
Mm-hmm.
So now we get to Earthbound 44, and this is
I
way
like
too
it.
high. This is way too high.
Did you like? Okay, did you like Earthbound for the most part?
It was okay, but there's so many other games that I like so much more. Super Mario RPG, which might be lower, Final Fantasy 6, higher, 6, 7. I mean, there's a bunch of games that aren't even on this list that I think are better and probably more. You don't even really get the influential card with Earthbound. It barely even made it over to the States. The sequel didn't. Or was
It's
it
got
the
this
prequel? Whatever.
It's got this cult following, though, that a lot of people, in hindsight, maybe have played it on emulators as they got older. I mean, I know I did that. I played it on an emulator when I was in college, and it has this certain charm to it. I don't know that it's necessarily a top 50 game of all time, but for what it did at the time of all other RPGs out there were like this, knights fantasy levels type of thing, and this one was like, yeah, you're gonna go fight a hippie on the street, or you're gonna walk through and your weapon is a yo-yo. It had this different feel to it that really, I think, brought some other people in that may not like that fantasy realm so much, kind of like me. I've never liked it that much, so
I just think it's a little high. I think it belongs on the list.
I think it does
it's
too.
Good. It just seems a little high when you start thinking of it being here and things that aren't here.
I can never really figure this out, but I wonder if I had played it at the time, would I have liked it more? Because I played a lot of other SNES RPGs that I feel like don't get enough shine, and this one I almost feel like it's too much, even though it's also a cult classic. It's weird. I'm sure Earthbound fans feel like it should be higher. I think it should be lower.
I try to think of 43 games better than it. I don't know. Sure.
Well, the fact that you like it is good. It means that it's probably a decent spot for it if we're having this debate.
I don't have too many qualms with it. Fuzzy Pickles. Resident Evil 1 is 43. As far as its place in the series and influence, maybe.
Yeah,
but
two.
Is there anybody who thinks the first Resident Evil is the best one? Is there anybody who thinks that?
No.
I'm sure there's someone on the planet, but it's either 2 or 4 for most people, right?
2 or 4, absolutely, is the only way to go about it.
Maybe some weirdos think 6, and a handful might say 5 just because of the co-op elements, which 6 also had, but 6 was a disaster. So,
and they're really talking about, I think, the remake. Oh, they are released 2002. Still. No.
No, I wouldn't. It seems crazy to put this one this high, even if you got Resident Evil 4 significantly higher.
Well, is it higher? Because don't spoil it, actually. But if this is a list, top 100 games, and you have Resident Evil 1, 2, and 4, we did something wrong with the list, especially with how you prefaced it.
Yep.
Where you don't want a bunch of repeats.
Yep. And that's the biggest issue, right? Is they actually gave a parameter for that one, and now they almost seem to be breaking it. Unless their arguments like Resident Evil is the best series of all time, which it's not.
Which it broke that,
yeah.
I kind of, you guys can change this if you want to. I feel like 42, 41, and 40 are all like PC heavy games. I don't really have a lot of experience with any of them because I wasn't a PC gamer.
Me neither.
With that said, I don't think I have a lot against them. I know Diablo 2 was super influential. A lot of people love it.
Yep.
StarCraft, is huge.
Yep.
StarCraft is huge, yeah.
Is it bigger than the first one? I'm sorry. Is it bigger than the second one?
I think so.
StarCraft I'd say would be higher than StarCraft 2. I've heard I remember people playing it. I mean, StarCraft came out in 98, and so I was 13, 14 years old, and I remember a lot of friends of mine playing that game, and I'm feeling weirded out because I never played PC games ever, but I just remember that was one of the first times I saw somebody playing games on a PC, and it kind of weirded me out, to be honest, but it was good. It was really big at the time.
Yeah, it's just huge for the real-time strategy genre. And, Diablo 2 is better than Diablo 1 in every way. It doesn't have the controversy that 3 had, so it makes a lot of sense here. World of Warcraft is the king of MMOs. There's some other close ones like EverQuest. Guild Wars was up there for a little while. 14, Final Fantasy 14. I don't have a problem with any of the 3 of them or really any of their spots.
No. Did we also unintentionally just get 3 Blizzard games in a row? Is Blizzard StarCraft or no?
Yes.
So that's Blizzard and Rockstar. I'm telling you, they get too much love. Although I don't have a lot against these 3 picks. If anything, World of Warcraft is probably too low.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Probably.
It's been out for more than a decade, still has a pretty
Well,
good player base.
and what's the most telling part of that? The fact that they just re-released the original game and people went fucking bananas for it.
yeah.
It's insane how many people play this, and I mean, for a while there, especially like late 2000s, early 2010s, everyone, there were people who would play online games, and this was it. Like, they didn't play other games. I had friends of mine who specifically would go to work, come home, plug into this, and play until they pretty much fell asleep on their keyboard.
Yep.
It was insane how big this was at the time. So yeah, I think it's too low as well.
Yeah.
Nice of the Old Republic is at 39.
This is way too low.
Also too
way
low.
too low.
I agree, and I'm sure if you go back and play it now, it is not the same. But again, it doesn't have to be. What this list has established is it only matters how good it was when it came out. And this is one of the best RPGs I've ever played. It was one of the first really big Western RPGs that was like excellent. It's awesome. Broke new ground. It's still one of the best Star Wars stories you've ever had.
Absolutely. It's stunning to me that this doesn't get the love that it did, that it does. I mean, to me, yeah, it's a fantastic RPG. The story is actually enthralling to me, but it had this brand new story with a sense of familiarity to it as well. I think when we did our old top 25 list back in the day, I think I put this at like number 2 or 3.
You and me, Dave, had it really high. Yeah.
I think it was on my list.
It's so good.
Yeah,
it's so good.
Absolutely.
And they have everything that you would want. You get to make your own lightsaber, and so good.
Yeah,
the dark side is fun. The light side is fun. I played through it multiple times.
I don't even take off for the fact that they kind of have that extreme thing going on where it's like, walk up to this lady and she's asking for money. It's like, kill her and take her money, give her the money she's asking for, or give her the money she's asking for plus 1,000 more credits. It's like, wow, that escalated quickly.
You know what, though? As tired as I am of that in a lot of games, and Mass Effect 2, one of the reasons it's so good is because it kind of curbed that. Mm-hmm. You're still a hero, but you just do things in a little more like Kiefer Sutherland, Jack Bauer way.
That's I like the Renegade versus Paragon type of thing, where it's like you're still trying to do a good thing, but you just how you get there.
But here it made sense because the dark side and light side of the Force are much more compelling than just like a traditional good evil type system, and B, it was also among the first to do it.
Yeah, exactly.
So everything else that's been sort of derivative of this, because I'll be honest with you, I played this last year. It really does not hold up well at all.
It's a little rough.
The story is still fine, but a lot of these mechanics that they were sort of introducing for themselves for the first time have just been done way better since then. And that's not this game's fault. That's why I wouldn't want to dock it too much, because boy, was it important at the time.
Yeah.
Yeah. I played it probably 5 or 6 years ago again, and I still loved it. Like, you're right. Some of the battle tactics aren't as great. It's a little choppy. But still,
choppy, kind of clunky, but I mean, it was still not bad. I was just kind of like, oh man, this kind of a bummer because this is not as good as I remember it being. It's because modern gaming has just surpassed it.
We're starting to get to the top of this Jenga tower, is what it's looking like to me. So this list, there's some weird ones, but a lot of the picks have been fine. But it's like the Jenga where you've like taken too many little pieces, and now you're starting to feel it up top.
Well, I accidentally just scrolled to number 37, but we'll get there.
Yeah. That I did too, and that's why I'm saying this right now.
Well,
New Vegas is way too high.
New Vegas is too high. It's too low.
Nice. This is the fight I want to have on the show. I think it's a little bit too high, but I think it's close. Some people love this. A lot of people think it's the best one. I like 3 more than New Vegas.
3 is way better than New Vegas.
This is my favorite Fallout game of all.
I had to struggle to get through Fallout New Vegas.
What?
I should say I enjoyed it, but in Fallout 3, I was like all about all the choices and like just playing every inch of that game. Fallout New Vegas, I went through the one track and I was like, okay, I'm probably good. Like, this was fine.
See, I felt the exact opposite. Fallout 3 is giant, and it was really cool in the sense of how big it was. And maybe my problem with Fallout 3 was part of the ending because I had Fox with me the entire time, and that whole problem with Fox and the ending of Fallout 3 bothered me so much.
It is silly.
It's ridiculous.
You
And that was
have
the
to, you have to
first
go
thing-
expose yourself. And it's like, no, I have a super mutant right here. He's my best friend.
Can you
He can
please
just
go
push
do
the
this?
button. I don't need to die.
You'll be fine, like I promise. So like, and that was the first time I beat it. It was like the first playthrough. I'm like, oh, this kind of ruined it for me. Fallout New Vegas, I beat all 3 endings, all the different areas. I loved doing all the different things.
Then you should probably buy Outer Worlds. That'll be a separate conversation, Dave.
All right.
It's made by the people who did this game.
I don't know. And one last thing on
Okay.
Fallout. Sorry. Do you guys? It's something I actually love is the authentic nature of the maps of that. Like I've been to Vegas a few times, so I kind of recognize the terrain and stuff like that. Walking around there, I'm like, oh yeah, I know where that is. I've been there. Or like playing Fallout 3, I've been to Washington D.C. before. Oh yeah, like I actually remember this part in the Mall of America, like or the whatever they call it, the mall. It's just kind of cool to me how they do that.
I think it's the same reasons. There are some people that love Grand Theft Auto for that same reason.
This guy right here.
Like, oh, hey, Los Angeles, let me go drive around. And, oh, cool, I've seen that before. And, oh, that's clearly the version of that, but they can't use it because of copyright, so they made something very similar.
You guys, the 30s are just fucked up. So Final Fantasy VI, 37.
Wow.
I would argue it is in the top 5. I would be fine if they had it in the top 1. It's not my best, but I would be fine with that.
I feel like
37?
out of the top 20 feels just factually incorrect as much as anything can be in a subjective list.
Yeah, I agree.
It broke. I mean, to me, I played this very late in life. I didn't play this when I was a kid, but I still loved it. The depth that comes from a game that came out in 1994 is mind blowing.
Yeah.
What this meant.
We're either saying that we're judging how influential the game is, or fucking not at all. What is this? What is? It's almost 40. It's in the high 30s.
Some of the stuff that's ahead of it too is just.
That's what I'm saying.
And I have
Mass
no
Effect
idea, so
2.
I can't wait. I see it.
Horrible. Way too low.
Yep.
Yeah, I'll agree with you, even though it's not even my favorite Final Fantasy.
Yep.
We have 2 games right here. Could have been in the top 10.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And so could the next one, to be honest. If
That's
you're
what
gonna
I'm
count
saying.
this as Pokemon Yellow 35, if you're gonna count this akin to Red Blue, and Red Blue better not be on here if Yellow is.
I don't think it is.
So if this is akin to Red Blue, and this is a list that seems to be banking on the influential, that's also wrong.
So
There may not have been a bigger phenomenon in gaming than the first Pokemon games ever. Yes, I'm including the first Mario Brothers in that.
I agree with you. I really quick want to say Mass Effect 2 still might be one of the very best stories to ever come out in gaming.
I love it.
Great writing.
Yeah.
Your choices matter more here than they've ever mattered in any other Mass Effect game. Probably because they matter so much in this one. It hurt 3 a little bit. But, I mean, that doesn't matter when you're judging 2. It's excellent.
The villain in there, the fact Harbinger is one of the best names for a villain I've ever heard in my life.
Yep.
And the guy was actually like really just really tough to deal with. It was really terrorizing almost.
Yeah. You die in the very beginning. I can't tell you. I mean, it just broke ground. It told, it really pushed that universe forward and all the canon and the lore to another level. The elusive man was so complicated, and it's just so 36. Like,
Yeah.
really?
That's
Are we kidding?
Mass
Pokemon.
Effect 2.
I mean, you're right, Chris. That's top 5, top 10 right there.
If they're going to follow their own rules.
Yeah.
If you want to argue that a series' influence doesn't matter as much, then fine, build your list that way. But in accordance with everything else we've seen, and again, this isn't about me being a Pokemon fan. This is about me being a fan of the industry as a whole and going, that's just wrong.
And I will say, too, because you're not doing gold, silver, and black, white, and all the which I understand, that then especially this one needs to be higher.
Yeah.
Because it's serving as the representative of all the Pokemon games.
Yep. Very bad.
Bloodborne. I will wait to see what's ahead of it. This is also too low. Bloodborne is like the Dark Souls formula to perfection in perfect marriage of theme and lore and gameplay. And, I enjoyed it a lot. It's not like my favorite type of game, but it's just like dripping with that ambiance. It's excellent.
You know what my problem with this is, and it's really not Bloodborne's fault. It's everything else that's around it. And again, this idea, the list that's been presented to this point, because Bloodborne, while I think it's a pièce de résistance of the genre, is a Dark Souls game at its core. How innovative is it? It's surrounded by some of the titans of gaming, because number 33, by the way, is Metroid Prime.
Yep.
Now, Metroid Prime's not the first Metroid game, but it's one of the most hugely influential 3D games, and it's been called the Citizen Kane of gaming by this very fucking site.
Yeah, that's true.
So it's not Bloodborne's fault. It's just I'm looking at 33, 35, 36, 37, and I'm like, 34 is an excellent iteration of a series that had already gotten a lot of support behind it. And I don't even care how good Bloodborne is on its own, but I'm like, how are these other ones so low if this is where Bloodborne is?
Yeah. Metroid Prime is one of the games I've been the most immersed in. Like, and I don't really get like that. Like, oh my God, I'm in the world. But like you're transported away. The sound and the way the visor fogs up, and there's so much polish in this game, and how they what a feat to translate 2D to 3D in this type of game. No one thought it could be done well.
No. There were skeptics everywhere. I was one of them because I was a big 2D Metroid fan. By all accounts, they knocked it out of the park. I don't know how this is 33. Again, anything outside of the top 15 looks wrong to me, especially, again, given the Citizen Kane, blah, blah, blah. Like, I say that jokingly, but I don't get it.
Something I want to bring up, what they said in that little write-up about it, too, is that IGN gave it a 9.8. This is IGN that we're talking about here. I wonder how IGN would rank their games if they ranked it based on the score they gave it.
Yeah, right.
Like,
I haven't actually read that review. I'd love to go back and see what they docked it for.
Yeah.
Because, you can gatekeep 10s. It's tough because you're basically saying the game's perfect. I think we've talked about this in a show, years ago. But, like, of the games I would consider in the 10 range, this is one of them.
Yeah, BioShock got a 10 or very close. And if I got a 10, they should get a 10. Oh, by the way, I haven't seen BioShock yet. That's making me nervous, too. But
how do they not put it on here?
I can't imagine at least the first one for just how...
That better be in the 20s.
Resident Evil 4 also... It's like their 30s were their top 10, and they got teleported out.
You could really make that case, couldn't you?
Resident Evil 4.
Jeez.
There's nothing in this 30s range, including World of Warcraft at 40, that I couldn't make an argument for in the top 10. Nothing.
Yeah, maybe we'll get to the top 10 and be like, oh, wow, I guess we forgot about these. I guess you do have to make room. I just don't think that's going to be the case.
I remember Resident Evil 4. I remember having that game in college and like people gathering around watching other people play Resident Evil 4 because it was that enthralling of like a horror story, basically. It was incredible. Like I just remember a friend of mine played this game and a girl that was with him literally like sat and watched him like, okay, like they were watching a movie. He would play it and she would watch it with him. It was it'd suck you in so much. I love this game.
We have like a decade now of games that have that this game shaped.
Yeah.
Both horror-wise and over-the-shoulder gameplay gun mechanics.
And again,
32.
There have been other series both before and after this that have gone for like the more jump scare or shock factor approach. But to me, like 4 is gripping.
Mm-hmm.
It has like the horror elements and some scares and some grossness and whatever, but like it's just all extremely compelling.
Right in the opening of the game, you walk up to somebody, and I guess Leon already knows about zombies a little bit, but these guys don't look like zombies at all. And he just starts walking towards you, and then you got to shoot him, type of thing. It's like, okay, this is a problem. Something's going on here. And it leads you into this world very slowly and then escalates extremely quickly.
I also think it's underrated for the RPG elements, which is the first time the series has really had that. It took a series that was really getting bogged down in micromanagement of items and introduced an upgrade system that it never really had. And it was great. It was fun. I loved upgrading, and there was a strategy to it. And even the inventory, the little Tetris thing. To this day, that's the best inventory system I've seen.
Yep, I totally agree.
Who would have thought inventory management would be fun?
Yeah. 32, though.
Shadow of the Colossus at 31. Again, given some of the titans they've put in the 30s, feels like it might be too high, but I don't know if I have a qualm with it here.
I think I'm okay with it. It's beautiful, and It can be pretty poignant, but it's really short, and you kind of really just do the same thing over and over and over. So it kind of takes you getting swept up in the art of it and that decides how much you enjoy this game.
Yeah, it feels like the first couple hours of Shadow of the Colossus might be top 5 all time. I don't know if the end result still is, but it's still a big-time deal.
Yeah.
I mean, I think the thing that's worth pointing out at this point as we go into the top 30 is I don't think we've seen a single Mario or Zelda yet. Is that correct?
I don't think so. I'll verify.
I can't remember any.
No Zeldas. And Mario Kart 8 and Super Mario. Mario Kart 8 and Yoshi's Island are the Mario
Yoshi's Island. All right. Well, those are both sort of Mario games, but not really. So
yeah.
Metal Gear Solid. Here's another one I think could be, I'll say end of the top 10. It's so huge. I mean, when you start the conversation of like comparing movies and video games, like it kind of starts with Metal Gear Solid. The problem now is 5 is the superior game in so many ways, but do you give credit to the one that did it the best or the one that started it all? I'm okay if you want to give it to the one that started it all, especially for what it did at that time.
I mean, it seems like most people would look at this one or 3,
Yeah.
maybe 4. I don't think there's a lot of people that would think 5, which belongs, at least not in this echelon of an all-time list, but...
Yeah, I get that.
See, this is where the naming conventions start to become a problem, and Tomb Raider suffered from this too. But number 29 is God of War, and my first reaction was like, what? And then I'm like, oh yeah, the remake, right.
Yeah.
That's fine, okay.
I'm concerned about recency bias, but this was a hell of a game.
It was so good.
It was one of the most engrossing stories. I know I said that earlier with Mass Effect 2, and I meant it, but it's just as true here. And the way that they present the cinematics, where there's very few actual, what do you call it? There are cutscenes, but it's all like there's no breaks. There's no actual cuts, or it's very rare. The way they present everything just makes it hit home even harder.
I love the fact throughout this entire game is probably the thing I love the most is the stakes are so relatively low.
Yeah.
I talked about this, Shaun, offline.
I love it.
Seriously, like the whole point of the game is you want to scatter your mother's ashes. That's it. Like that's the goal of the game.
Yeah.
And you're going through all this crazy stuff, but it's like, yeah, that's all we're here to do. It's like we're saving the world. It's not like we started out on this mission and then, oh no, all the gods are conspiring against us. We have to kill every single god. It's like, nope, scattering mother's ashes. That's what we're doing.
I'm telling you, David, we should maybe do a review of God of War.
Yeah.
We should get Chris to play it and then do it.
Yeah.
Chris, I actually think you would like it.
I think I have to at some point. It is on my list.
I know how bad the first ones are and how not interested you are. And even with that said, this one is just so good.
I'm right with you. I couldn't stand the first ones. They bored me to tears.
It's so good. It almost justifies how shitty he is. Almost, not quite. But the way that they don't ignore that past, and it's very much built into his transformation here / past he can't escape from. It's so well done. You're almost like, is this the same company? And it is, but you're shocked.
Keep in mind how much I buried this franchise, so know that your guys' suggestion does bear weight when I say I'm at least considering it now.
Yeah.
And I mean, it was well regarded outside of the two of you, but your guys' recommendations matter to me, so I've gone from never, ever, ever to, okay, maybe, yeah.
Yeah.
That speaks a lot.
I don't know how much my recommendation carries because I don't get to play a ton of games, and I know I've played other games like Mass Effect Andromeda where I started playing it and just said, no, this is boring. I'm not doing this anymore.
Hello, yep.
Turns out you were right.
Yep.
Yeah, well, but seriously, like this game, I didn't want to put it down. It was so good.
Well, we don't have the time to game anymore that we used to, so there's no time to waste on bad ones.
Yep.
Yeah, I love this one.
The whole list is automatically disqualified because Witcher 3 is 28.
It's pretty high. I'm pretty low. I keep doing that. Like, again, we talk about the recency bias thing, and I understand that, but like, this was one of the best RPGs I've ever played.
It's been 4 years now.
In my whole life. 4
years now. I don't think it's recency bias anymore. I think it just holds up.
It's so, like, the way they do the quests is excellent. The gameplay is fun. The combat is frustrating at times, but because it's like they're trying to capture a somewhat realistic setting. He's not like some guy who is like I don't know, a god on the battlefield. He's just an enhanced dude, and you feel that in the battles. Like every one, you have to come in prepared. And the story is so good. Oh my god. Creative side quests. The best DLC a game has ever had. The Blood and Wine could have been its own game. Could have been a sequel. And they're just like, here's DLC to continue your story. It's excellent.
And it's like Mass Effect in that its iterations kept helping the series more and more as it went. So now 3 is like the perfect cocktail of all of that.
Yep.
Are you in pain with number 27? Oh, sorry.
Yeah, no. Yeah, I just want to. Best writing, best story. I love Witcher. So I do have some beef. BioShock at 27. I also have some beef.
I figured you'd have a lot of beef. I mean, at least it's on the list, right? We were getting scared.
I mean, if it wasn't on the list, we would have just stopped. We would have literally just stopped. I don't know when. I guess we couldn't have till we hit number 1, anyways.
Yeah.
I don't know if people are like. They're all upset, like, oh, that game doesn't even have dual wielding. Like, you're looking back and you're like, yeah, it's not like a shooter from today.
I love that part.
It came out in 2007. And yeah, the gameplay improved in 2 because you could like dual wield the magic and the gun.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was an improvement for sure. But the first one does so many things right. The story is actually not great, but that's kind of the point. The atmosphere is so good, and the motif and the theme and how the oh god, what do you call it when like the world itself reflects the story and the themes? You guys have a word for that? The whole idea is
motif?
like claustrophobic. Yeah, maybe that's it. Maybe I'm repeating myself. But then like the levels themselves, like all you feel is claustrophobia. You're underwater in a city.
Yeah.
Oh, it's so good.
It's and honestly, the narrative hasn't really been challenged before. They've made so many games where there's this overarching guide that's just going to help you. Hey, here's how you're going to get through this level. Here's where you need to go next. I'm going to help you through this thing and beat the bad guy. And then when they throw that twist at you, that he's been manipulating you this entire time, I don't have my mind blown often by games, but holy shit.
Yeah.
It did blow my mind.
Yep. Yeah, I have a huge issue with that one.
Yeah.
I mean, Metroid Prime and BioShock are basically the two ambiance heavyweights of all time. Mm-hmm. There's others, but Civ 4, none of us have played Civilization. The series is well regarded. 4,
it sounds like it'd be fun.
I mean, it's basically like SimCity to the extreme, with some Age of Legends mixed in there.
Yeah,
Age of Empires.
25.
Yeah.
25.
Ocarina of Time. 25.
25.
Right above Minecraft, because I just want to see what the next thing is so I can see how bad this is.
Minecraft is a better game than Ocarina of Time.
I mean, if this was written by a 15-year-old, sure, probably they'd say that.
Yeah.
And you can't even use the influence argument there. I mean, sure, Minecraft is it's a titan in the gaming industry, but Ocarina of Time might be the most important and or best game of all time.
This makes me want to get up and walk away.
And I'm not even a big Ocarina of Time truther. I would put other Zelda games above it on the list, but as again, talking influence as a factor in this, which it clearly has been, it can't be here.
No.
I swear we've shared this story on the show before, but this game, at the time at least, was so important that Chris literally brought over his N64 to my house, brought the game over, plugged it in my TV and said, all right, Dave, here, you're going to play this. And like sat there and like helped me play it because it's like, you have to play this game.
You know, teenagers are shitheads, and I'm not going to pretend like I had impeccable taste. We've talked about Limp Bizkit before, but 13-year-old me had that one right.
Yeah. I just remember like you were so insistent. I'm like, all right, okay. I didn't have an N64. I had a PlayStation when I was that age. And so when you brought it over, I'm like, all right, I guess I'm playing this thing. Let's do this.
Mm-hmm. And it just paved the way, just like Mario 64 paved the way for 3D everything, gameplay, how to work a camera in a 3D game. Ocarina of Time took it to the next level of here's how you do meaningful cinematics and music and sound effects and Z-targeting, which is like the standard. Even now still, you can target things with the push of a button.
I'm playing Breath of the Wild. It still uses the same tactic for the most part.
Yep.
In God of War, he doesn't really jump. That's Ocarina of Time. Like, there's so many things that this game defined for the rest of the industry for years. Yep. But, 25, because Minecraft is really great.
Okay, so
this makes me actually like Minecraft less.
I've got a very quick anecdote about Minecraft. A few weeks ago, I was at my cousin's house, and my cousin is 10 or 11, and he was playing Minecraft, and I watched him make this like working thing where like almost like a working machine where he flipped a switch and like windows went up on this building. I'm like, wow, that's really cool that you could build that in game. But as far as a game, it's like, what the hell is this game? I still don't understand what Minecraft is.
And that's I almost get to the point of like, if you had a really elaborate like paint thing. I actually did this. There's a VR paint game. It's amazing. It's really cool. You're painting in a 3D space and it's all around you and it's awesome. It's not a fucking game. It's not like, and maybe we need to define like what makes a game now. And maybe the term game itself is not accurate, but like, come on.
Yeah,
I mean,
Now every game on this list from here on out, from 24 down, is going to be like, well, is that better than Ocarina of Time? Probably not.
It's an uphill slog. I mean, Minecraft is a game. A lot of people like it. I enjoyed a little bit of it. I never really got into it, but I played a little bit. 24 is no.
I could see myself enjoying it if I had the time and really desire to kind of create things. But overall, there's so many other games I'd rather play.
Well, and here's the problem. So Halo.
I could you could make an argument as far as putting this ahead of Ocarina of Time, but 23?
I mean, you could make an argument, but
But it's wrong.
I know, but it's not ludicrous. How's that?
Well, this is where I start to get to like who made this list, and like it seems like a bunch of like West Coast bro Western gamers. Like,
well, here's the problem with this description. I'm not even going to read the article. I'm just going to read the part that's in the snippet in the list that we're looking at. Halo didn't invent the first-person shooter, not by a long shot, nor was it even the first console FPS, but it was the first FPS to finally get it right on a console. No, it wasn't. There's a game earlier on your own goddamn list that was. It's called GoldenEye.
Which is ranked like 70 or something up there.
Now, Halo did a lot of things better than GoldenEye, don't get me wrong, but don't pretend like it was the standard. It's not.
Yeah. I think part of the thing that this did, and no, you can't even put that. I mean, the multiplayer aspect of it was kind of revolutionary at the time where you could link together the consoles and have this giant game going on. But even so, GoldenEye had a great multiplayer, even though it was only one console at a time, only 4 people.
Yep.
I like Halo. I have
do
great
too.
memories from Halo. I think
Me
it
too.
deserves to be high on this list.
Sure.
Again, I'm now skewed because you put one of the best games, you could argue maybe number one, as 25.
Because now ignoring that in a vacuum and ignoring the 30s, just taking Halo as 23, I go, yeah, that seems about right. It shouldn't be top 10 or anything. So at 23, okay, I can rock that. But we've had like 8 games before that should be higher. So
I'm not convinced that Breath of the Wild is necessarily a better game than Ocarina of Time. And I might get some hate for that, but we'll have a chance to talk about it, I'm sure.
I'm not convinced it is either, and I haven't even played it.
Yeah.
I know it's tough, but
I played a snippet, and it's different. It's fun, that's for sure. It's giant in comparison, but
I remember I was almost like, I felt let down because I let in with this list sucks, and then the top 50 were like, or the 50 to 100 were actually okay.
overall, sure.
Some head scratchers, but I was like, oh, maybe I oversold this. I'm feeling all the rage come back. I'm remembering why I had such a beef. It's not necessarily with Half-Life. I've heard it's fine, although it's weird to
22.
me because 2 is considered much better.
Yep.
Half-Life 2 is the only one I've ever heard people talk about.
Some people consider that one of the best games of all time. So either it's ahead of this on this list and we have 2 in the top 22, which I don't think is right, or it's not, and that's even weirder.
Yeah.
It's not following its own rules. I never played Half-Life. I've heard great things about it. It seems really creepy as hell, but
Metal Gear Solid 3
It's
is 21.
not even my favorite Metal Gear It's not even my second favorite Metal Gear Solid game.
borderline top 20.
Yeah,
I don't know. I don't know.
I understand that I like this game less than most fans of the series. Like, I don't know why. I always have. This still seems really, really high.
Yeah, I mean 40s. Okay.
Now, right, and if you're saying that this encompasses all the other games, then that's fine, but it doesn't because you already had one earlier.
Correct. Last of Us at 20. I don't know how I feel about this. I think The Last of Us has an excellent story. I don't find it to be very fun to play.
No, that's what I'm saying. And even the story is, it's good. It's maybe even very good. But and the writing is great, the relationship is great. But if you take out that last twist, it's fine. It's good. You haven't played this game, Dave.
I have not. Is this more? There's not a lot of combat. Is that right? Is it more?
There's a decent amount of combat.
Okay.
It's very I'm hoping it's going to be a lot better in 2. To me, The Last of Us would almost be better served as a David Cage game, not with his batshit stupid stories, but that story in a Telltale or David Cage style game where there's not really that kind of gameplay might almost be better for it.
That's what I saw, like a Heavy Rain type of game is what I kind of always thought. And I actually really liked Heavy Rain, even though it's batshit crazy. I still really liked it.
The stealth is fun and the shooting is fine.
It's not terrible, but
yeah, it's not groundbreaking by any means.
I was more interested in just getting to the next cutscene than I wasn't actually playing the sequences. And to me, that doesn't make top 20.
And that's what something like a Heavy Rain is good at. It's like, okay, the whole thing is cutscenes that you interact with, which I kind of like. So
20 is way too high for me.
Yeah,
I just want to establish for
ahead
Last
of
of Us.
Ocarina of Time.
Some people wouldn't mind this. I think it should be a little lower. It's a top 35 or so for sure, but Doom is 19, which again, okay, so it's a terrible pick unless we're counting how important it was to the industry, which we've established has been thrown out the window now.
Yeah,
so
it's not. So what is this?
We're not even going to talk about it because we're going to be here until like 2 hours if we keep going at this pace. So see you later, Doom. Wrong.
Chrono Trigger. How do you feel about that, Chris?
Horrific.
Yeah.
I will still, even to this day, having played more than I did 7 years ago when we did the first list, say this is the best game of all time.
Yeah, I mean, I disagree with you for sure, but
I won't have qualms with people not saying it's number 1. But if you say it's out of your top 10, you're wrong.
Yeah.
It's again, this is another one Chris introduced me to, and I remember playing it and still loving it, and then going back to it so many times. Like it's got so many things for a 1995 game. It still blows me away when these old games like this are so in depth and so good.
One of the most innovative RPG combat systems to this day.
Yep.
Yeah.
One of the most still like the best use of multiple endings.
Yep.
Great new game plus.
Yep.
And then like the story is actually pretty good too. Really.
Yeah.
Phenomenal soundtrack.
Good characters.
Some of the industry's titans worked on this game, and it shows.
Maisie cried like 50 times playing it. Like,
1995.
Yeah.
Yeah.
1995. That's 10 years after Super Mario Brothers, and this is how far along we were.
But Portal was better.
Portal's number 17. I get it.
I
I
love
love
Portal.
I love
love
Portal. It's
I love
great.
it. It's
Everything's
fantastic.
great. The inside not, and I would much prefer to have Portal on here than Portal 2.
Really?
Really bad news for you.
Oh boy, if there's 2 Portal games in the top 17, we have a problem.
I have really bad news for you.
Oh boy,
You're
that's
gonna
number
get to
1.
it, Chris.
I'll argue with you a little bit that I like Portal was fantastic. Loved it. Great gameplay. Great kind of introduction to a little mini world. But Portal 2 to me expanded on that so much, and the story in Portal 2, Wheatley in that was fantastic. All of it together, I like Portal 2 a lot more than Portal 1 because it just took one and made it bigger and better.
Here's my issue. I think 17 to 20 might actually probably be where Portal belongs. But now it's ahead of Ocarina of Time and Chrono Trigger and so many of these other games.
All of this is just under this umbrella now of Ocarina of Time was 25.
Well, and now Chrono Trigger. And, BioShock and Witcher 3 and, like, a bunch of those games.
And this is the issue I have, is that this list has talked about not wanting multiple games from series as much as possible. Now, Portal's 2 games, so it's tough if you want both. But I saw 16, and I saw 15 by mistake. And we have to talk about this because if that's the case, Portal 2 belongs nowhere near the top 10.
Well,
Really bad.
And I think Portal 2 is better than Portal as well, but I almost think I would rank Portal higher in the framework that they have established.
Yeah, right.
16 is Dark Souls. I don't have a huge qualm with this because, again, look how many copycats we've had since 2011 when this game just took off on a meteoric rise. It's kind of clunky now by comparison, especially with games like Neo and Bloodborne and others that have come since then. But again, if you're talking about how important was it, fine.
Yeah.
16's a pretty good place for it, actually.
Yeah, and if you were looking, which it kind of is and kind of isn't, as the one that encompasses the Sekiro and all of them, yeah, I mean, that's okay. But
like 15, I'm sure is going to be a controversial pick for some people. Street Fighter 2. Was there a bigger game from 91 to 93?
No,
I hate fighting
Anywhere in the
games.
world.
I hate fighting games, and I actually sort of enjoyed playing this one.
I
Hate
mean,
fighting games.
you want to talk about spawning clones and derivatives. There is no other game on this list that spawned more clones and derivatives than this one right here.
I don't really like Street Fighter. I have no issue with this. Like, I know enough to know that this is huge.
And outside of top 10 is fine for it. Even with all of that said about how important it was, it doesn't need to be top 10 because it wasn't like that great on its own, regardless of how important it was. So that's okay. I don't mind that there. 14 is Super Mario Brothers.
Yikes, though. Hey, see, okay, I need us to go in order. Mario Brothers, I mean, yeah, I have no issue. I mean, to
know
this
issue with
day,
14.
they talk about how it's like a genius game. Like, for being the first of its kind, like they did a study. The amount of time Mario's in the air in his jump is considered like perfect. It's not too long. It's not too short. And there's like little stuff. Every piece that went into making this game was like brilliant, like ahead of its time.
Yeah, like the placement of the Goomba in 1-1
Yeah.
is just the first of a cavalcade of decisions that come down the road that are all like exquisitely done.
Yeah.
And you can argue that there has been no more consequential game in gaming than this one. Again, it's right up there with Street Fighter 2. So it makes me very nervous about the rest of the list that this is here.
Yeah, because it's either not on the list because you're saying, it was important, but now, I mean, like Mario Odyssey is the height of what a Mario game can do now. Yeah.
Super Mario World hasn't been on this list yet. If Super Mario World's not on this list anywhere, then we have a problem.
Yeah.
So that's interesting, but again, we have 13 more to go, and I'm like, huh. And I think Tetris is going to be up here.
Halo 2.
Halo 2 at 13.
I would put Halo 2 ahead of Halo 1, in my opinion.
I
wouldn't.
wouldn't.
Halo
Not
2.
on this list.
There is no justification for Halo 2 above Halo 1.
I disagree. I
If you
really
want
like
to
Halo
put
2.
Reach, maybe, but Halo 2 and 1 are so similar
Yeah.
that by their guidelines, you go with one or the other, not both. They're not different enough.
Fair. Yeah, if I'm nitpicking, I'd probably pick Halo 2 over Halo 1 because of the introduction of playing the other side a little bit. I like that.
No, I mean, I'm with you on that, and that's why it's like if we're doing it our own way, we would never do it this way. But based on their own capacity for what they wanted to approach this list with, this is just not correct.
And
Forget where it should go; it's just not correct.
And I can't even agree with you, Dave, because you and I are similar. I liked playing as the Arbiter 2. I like playing as Raiden in Metal Gear Solid 2. Those are both very unpopular opinions. So you're taking the most unpopular opinion and saying it's the 13th best game of all time. Ocarina of Time, Chrono Trigger, no. Halo 2.
Yeah.
The cliffhanger bullshit ending.
Oh my god, that did piss me off.
Yep. And what did this do?
It didn't leap forward the multiplayer like
No.
that much.
This is one where it actually brought it to online gaming because before it wasn't really online at all. I think this is the first one that's online.
Yeah.
So that was big in that instance. It was one of the first times people played online games. I know it's the first game I played online, but still.
It's just a question of like, what did 2 do better than 1? Some things, I think. What did 2 do that was vastly better than 1? Like, there's not a Mass Effect to Mass Effect 2 jump here.
Mm-hmm.
So what is this doing? Castlevania Symphony of the Night, there'll be people that think this is too high at 12. I don't know if I agree with them. I mean, the Metroidvania genre has its name for a reason, and this is the Vania half of that.
I was surprised. I thought that this was too high, but if you're saying this actually might be a good spot for it.
I see indie games coming out in 2019 that are still copying Symphony of the Night, and this is 1997.
Yeah.
Probably the perfect 2D Castlevania game. I think there's others that are decent, but I don't know if there's anything better.
I don't know if I've ever played it, so maybe
I haven't either.
You probably should. That's kind of like one of those holes in your gamer cred type thing, which I have some too. Grand Theft Auto 5 at 11. No.
No, except if it's encompassing most of the series. And we had a Vice City. Have we had a San Andreas on here yet?
Yeah, San Andreas is on there, and 3, and Vice
3.
City, I believe.
Well,
Yeah,
okay,
this
so
is
now
the 4th Grand Theft Auto game, which is why this is a problem.
now I have more of an issue.
Now, I'm not saying this should be vastly lower, but
I don't know. For me, if you're evaluating under the guise you've already had 4 Grand Theft Autos on this, I can see the problem with this. I can totally see this as a top 10 game of all time. It is so in depth. The switching between characters is fantastic. To me, it's the best Grand Theft Auto game by a long shot, and such an improvement over Grand Theft Auto 4.
oh yeah.
That's true.
I love it. I mean, it is so much better than Grand Theft Auto 4 in every single way that I could absolutely argue this being a top 10 game.
I'm just surprised because the story is not that good. And
it's a little segmented, which is weird.
So for me, Grand Theft Auto games lack everything that Red Dead does well. I think Red
Mm-hmm.
Dead, both 1 and 2, are so superior to almost every Grand Theft Auto game because they actually are presenting all the main gameplay ideas people like about Grand Theft Auto, except in a story and with characters people really care about.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Because, I mean, Grand Theft Auto has characters people care about to some extent. Maybe not as much as Red Dead. And it has phenomenal worlds. So those are both great in Grand Theft Auto. But the problem is, what are they doing? Take this mission. Commit this crime.
Yep.
Blow this thing up.
And-
run this prostitute over.
And you know what?
It's fun. But is it as good as like a Red Dead? No.
And other than the heist missions, if you had a whole game of heist missions, I would actually maybe agree with the score. How often do you get a Grand Theft Auto where it's like, go to this deal. It should be fine. Oh, it's not. A gunfight erupts.
Go chase him down. Yeah.
And you get a couple of unique ones, like the heists are good. There's one where like
Yep.
you're chasing down the boat and you have to jump onto the boat that's on the highway.
The photography ones are good in this one too.
Like-
I think yeah.
It's just I spent so much time on missions that are like, oh, we're going to a place and it's gonna go bad and we're gonna shoot some people. Rinse, repeat, over and over and over again.
Yeah.
This was another game where I felt like it was a little bit of a chore to get through. I was enjoying it for the most part, but I struggle when it's like number 11 ever.
Same. At least 4 is not on this list.
But yeah,
'Cause
but I will.
after 4, people talked about 4 as one of the best games
Yeah.
of all time. And I'm like, you are out of your mind.
Oh my god, that 4 was a struggle to get through. That's for damn sure.
Yeah.
I will
Yes.
not die on this hill of Grand Theft Auto though because I know how much it means to the industry. I know most people really love it. It got a 10. I'm almost positive on
Yes, it
IGN.
did.
So
If there were fewer Grand Theft Autos on this list, I would be probably fine with 5 at 11.
Yeah.
But if there aren't, there's 4. That's now going to be almost certainly, barring some weirdness in the top 10, the most represented franchise on this list. I don't think that's right.
yeah, Super Mario 64 at 10 is like probably just about perfect.
Yeah.
Maybe
Yeah.
it needs to be a little higher, but that's probably fine. We kind of talked about what it did already.
Yeah.
It's great. I still love it.
My-
It's just the feeling you get when you play it is still like pure joy, and it's kind of unquantifiable, but like it has it.
It's amazing how Mario in general transcends age, religion, sex, everything. Like Mario is so accessible. Like I bust out my old Wii, and now my 5-year-old and 3-year-old want to play Mario 64.
Yeah.
It's crazy. Like they will grab the controller and ask me to play, or they will play it. It's nuts. My daughter actually got the first star, which I was kind of happy with. It's like, all right.
She's on her way.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah,
So,
I mean,
like,
we could talk
it's
about
amazing.
how expertly this was crafted too, and how it had no business being anywhere near this good. With how so many other games butchered the transition to 3D, and this was excellent from the start. It doesn't get enough credit for that somehow now. It's because it's been 23 years. 10's about right. I could go a couple spots higher, but I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
Red
good.
Dead Redemption at 9. I love Red Dead Redemption. I love it more than the second game. I love it more than Shaun does. 9 is too high.
9 is extremely too high. I thought I liked 2. I thought I liked 1 more than I did. Going back and playing it again, and I know you're going back now and playing an older game, but it kind of has that derivative thing that I was talking about with Grand Theft Auto. You go and you kill wave after wave after wave of bad guy, and then that's it, and the mission's over. The story is okay, but the characters are, and maybe I'm spoiled by 2, where you get really rich, fleshed out characters. A lot of them are kind of caricatures. Seth and Dickens. It only really gets excellent in like the last third when you start really going after Dutch and you're through Mexico. And like by then I'm like, well, that part's fun, but I can't say it's one of the greatest games ever because it had a good last third.
I need to play this game. So all I
Yes, you
can
do.
put in
You
is-
should play this
I
game and
absolutely
then
need to play
2. And then, I mean, the difference is so, it's immense.
Yeah, we can
Yeah.
quibble with how good Red Dead Redemption is. It's good, and you should play it.
Yeah.
There's no doubt about that.
It's not 9.
And again, I agree with that.
Yeah.
I would have Red Dead in the 20s, maybe. And Red Dead 2, I don't know, in the 40s for me, but it doesn't really matter. It shouldn't be 9.
No.
Half-Life 2 is 8. We talked about it earlier. This is probably fine, but Half-Life 1 shouldn't be 22.
Yeah, it's kind of this should be a combination of the two.
For the small quibbles, I prefer like Halo shooters to Half-Life, but I get this was a pretty big deal.
Yeah.
The gravity gun is like really innovative and new at the time.
As we see Tetris at number 7, it's dawning on me we haven't seen Mario 3 either. I'm assuming that's going to be down below. I'm not cheating though. Tetris at 7 is fine because, again, just like Super Mario Brothers, there's something beautiful about the tetrominoes and just the fact that, like, yeah, there's these 7 shapes, and it has been the core of gameplay that has been repeated and beloved now for 35 years. As we saw with how quickly Tetris 99 went bonkers, there is still legs in this game to this day.
Yeah, I was going to say, especially because of that multiplayer Tetris game, this justifies this one being here even more.
Yeah. That's another really cool example of like a modern game that just showcases how really, really good something was well before its time.
Yep.
Do you play Tetris DS at all? Because I still remember getting through that game and like getting to level 99 and maxing out the score because it was almost impossible to lose how much you could flip the pieces.
Yeah. I remember you loving that thing because you would just close your DS.
Yes.
And then resume later on the next day, and then keep going the next day, close it again. Yep. It was the perfect format for that.
Yeah.
It really was.
Well, there it is. 6, Super Mario Bros. 3.
God, I love Mario 3. I love Mario 3 so much.
And you know what? I love Mario World more than 3, but I will admit 3 brought in so many important elements that, well, I mean, World added some as well, but I think World owes a lot of its success to 3.
Yep.
I don't really have a problem with this, and 6 is about right. I don't know that it should be top 5.
What? I mean, this has to be one of the first games ever where you had an overworld map, right? Like
one
that introduced the levels.
Well, I mean, okay, overworld map. Like the original Final Fantasy had an overworld map.
But like this, where like you're navigating, and rather than just going from level stitch to level, you're able to like move around and kind of choose which levels. There's branching paths you can do. There's side games you can do.
Yeah.
Certainly for this style game, yeah.
Yeah, it's Mario 3 is to me like this perfect mix of challenge and length and complexity if you want it to be. It's so amazing how simple this game can be because you can beat it in 10 minutes if you want. Not 10, but you know what I mean. Or you can really get in and try to beat every level, and some of the levels take 15 seconds to beat, literally. Or sometimes the level you can try to get through all of it, and there's so much to explore in it. The depth of it or the lack of complexity is so much fun in this game. So
this is the point where we have to start thinking, okay, there's 5 spots left. There are some games we haven't seen yet. So they're either on this list in the top 5 or they're nowhere. So like Super Metroid hasn't been seen yet. I assume it's in this. God, no other Zelda I can think of. Majora's Mask is clearly not going to be on here. If Ocarina of Time is in the top 25, barely. So I'm interested to see what's happening here because we have some problems.
Ocarina of Time is the only Zelda so far up to the top 5.
Yeah.
It's about to change.
We have some problems.
It's about to change.
Breath of the Wild.
I see number 5 is Breath of the Wild. Yeah. I still can't really comment on this. I haven't played it. I just have a hard time believing it.
I know people are obsessed with this game, and I get it. Personally, for me, it dispensed of the main reason I love Zelda games, which is the dungeons.
Yep.
Because you get the bite-sized ones. Those are great. Really fun. But I love the full dungeons and that full experience. And you don't really get that here. Even when they try, it's too hard to go from the open world to more of a linear puzzle layout.
I'm super early in this game. I just started playing it recently. And I'm blown away by... Like, I thought those first 4 spirit orbs you get were like, okay, cool, you're going to get these. This is just your warm-up. And then I'm starting to find, like, these little dungeons that take 5 minutes to beat. And I'm finding that I'm running for almost 10 minutes trying to get from one town to the next. I'm just like, wow, this is a huge game, but it's changing just a little bit of, like, what am I actually playing here? It doesn't feel like I'm playing a Zelda game. It feels like I'm almost playing more of, like, an RPG type of open-world, explore type of game.
I mentioned this in the last game, but I think we're getting to a breaking point in this industry where we are going too big with our worlds. I think it's the similar problem with why I wasn't really that interested in No Man's Sky, because it's basically this times 10, where it's like, cool, you have this vast, massive place to explore, but if all you have are tiny gaming experience oases scattered throughout a desert with almost nothing in it, are you really improving this sequence? Are you really making the final product better? I'm not saying Breath of the Wild does this, But just in general, I think we've overstated how important it is to have a huge world and how important it is to have a finely crafted, tight world with a really strong experience.
Yeah, and Breath of the Wild it's huge. It's pretty dense with things you can do, which is good. But, I mean, Red Dead 2, I would say, yeah, there's some weird Easter eggs you can find if you explore. But most of the time, you're spending 10, 15 minutes just riding your horse. And it's beautiful, but you're like, I want to get to the next mission.
Yeah.
Breath of the Wild is great. It's excellent.
It is.
I would maybe even say it should be in the top 10. I just don't know if it is necessarily the quintessential Zelda experience. I guess we'll see how important it is in the next 5-10 years or beyond. But,
yeah, that'll be interesting. And the sequel will be interesting.
Yeah.
I wish my damn sword would stop breaking.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, there's that.
Same. You'd think I would be ecstatic about Super Metroid at number 4 because I'm the ride or die Super Metroid guy here. That's too high. From a guy who loves Super Metroid and thinks it should probably be top 10, I think it's too high.
It's too high.
Which means everybody else definitely thinks it's too high.
Yeah. It's too high. I love this game. It's one of my favorites. I have the shadow box of it on my wall. I think it's great. It was important. It was probably one of the earliest really good storytelling things, weirdly enough.
It blows 1 and 2 out of the water, and 1 was important for its own reasons, but and I love this game. I love it. It should be 7, 8. And that's by my book. So again, probably not the best look. You'd think I would be excited, but I'm not because I just think the whole thing is a sham. There's Portal 2.
Yeah, number 3.
Number 3.
Ever.
I absolutely loved this game. I played it so fast. I laughed. I loved it. So much of this game was fantastic. Number 3 is fucking high. Someone had to be high while they wrote it. It was so high up. It's ridiculous.
I will even give it credit for doing a full single-player campaign and a full separate co-op campaign.
Yeah.
That's great. You built on everything you did in the first one. It doesn't have the same highs for me, I'll be honest, as the first one, and that is partially just because in the first one, you don't know what's going on, you don't know where you are, and it really built that world. 2 doesn't have the same highs, but it's consistently great.
Yeah.
And it builds on everything in such a cool way that so many different puzzles and paints and new mechanics, and it's great. It's not number 3 at all.
Number 3 is insane. There's you can think of Mario games and Zelda games that could fit before this one,
Well, I mean, that's the
easily.
problem, right? It's just off this own list, forgetting the stuff that's missing off of this, we would put 15 games above this, which means it should probably be in the 20 range.
I just have a feeling if you have a game and you have the same game and you did an experiment, and for half of it you said it was some no-name company, and for half you said it was Valve, Rockstar, or Blizzard who made the game, that's going to boost the score.
Yeah. You're probably true.
It's looking that way. And it's not even like I'm a Nintendo fanboy, especially not now. 10 years ago I might have been more of one where I was like, yeah, Nintendo's the best, blah, blah, blah. I don't care anymore. But what's happening here? Number 2, you'd think I'd be ecstatic about. I'm trying to keep this as a surprise to myself. It's Link to the Past. I love Link to the Past. I don't know why more people don't have it higher on their lists. This at 2, with Breath of the Wild at 5, and Ocarina of Time at 25, just feels bizarre.
Yeah, it's a good thing they went out of their way to specifically state we don't want to be inundated with Marios and Zeldas. They have 3 of them.
In the top 5.
In the top 25, but yeah.
Well, no, it's
and then 2 in the top 5, yeah.
And
so,
2 in the top 5.
2 in the top 5, yeah.
Ocarina of Time resonated with me more. I think it's where it hit me when I played it at that time in my life. It's different for you. I'm not going to begrudge you A Link to the Past, but
Wind Waker for me was better to me, and then maybe it's just time of my life thing. But I loved Wind Waker, and that's not even on this freaking list.
Yeah,
and maybe that's a byproduct of not wanting too many Zeldas. But yeah, I'm kind of the same way where I think Wind Waker should be in the 60s or 70s. Don't go to sleep on me. I grew up with this game. I loved it. I think Ocarina of Time owes more to this game than anybody gives it credit, while still deserving its own praise. Number 2, I'm I voted it as my number 1 when we did our list, but that was mostly because I knew the point system and was gaming it a bit. I wanted it to be higher in our final result, so I think I had it number 1, but that was because I was the only person who voted for it, so I had to. That said, it doesn't belong at number 2.
I never played all the way through it. Sorry.
I should have brought that one to your house, too.
Yeah.
I had a Super Nintendo.
Okay, my problem here is I don't know what number 1 is.
It's not one I agree with at all.
I don't know what I don't know what I'm missing. I don't know what we haven't considered yet that is going to be here.
I think you'll be like
Take a guess.
happy at first, but then
I can't take a guess. I don't know what it is. I can't think of anything else that people have regarded as the best game of all time that we haven't mentioned yet. So it means it's probably not a good choice.
No. Go ahead and read it.
All right. Oh, boy. It's that one I mentioned earlier. So in addition to not wanting to have too many Zelda games, they also didn't want to have too many Mario games, and there's one at 1 and one at 6.
Yep. That's
Super
what I said
Mario
there.
World, by the way, so I don't give away because my reaction, I read it, but you guys can't see it or hear it if you're listening. That's wrong.
Yeah.
It shouldn't be above 3, and I love World.
Yep.
It shouldn't be number 1, and I love World. What is that?
I actually like World more than 3. Again, where I was in my life when I played it, and the Yoshi, and the graphically, it's like really crisp and nice, and I adore World. It's not the best game ever made.
Yeah, I feel the same way. Like, I remember playing this game and thinking at the time, like, oh my God, this is so much bigger. This is like such a unbelievable successor to Super Mario Bros. 3, which I played the shit out of Super Mario Bros. 3 when I was a kid and didn't have a Super Nintendo for a long time. So this felt like this novel, like amazing thing. But today I like playing Mario 3 more. I think it's more fun. I don't know what it is about it, but Super Mario World is the number 1 game of all time. Seems crazy to me.
I mean,
By any metric.
The secret exits are really, really fun because it was more than just what they did in 3, where it was like the occasional power-up for the most part was what you got hidden away from there. Everything feels great. The power-ups are fun. Yoshi's a really cool addition. It's one of my favorite soundtracks of all time. If that was 11, I'd be like, cool. I actually wouldn't have thought it would be that high. So the fact that it's at 1 instead of 11 then goes, uh-oh.
Yeah.
I'm a Super Nintendo, like, diehard. That was my first main system. We had an NES in the house. I played it some. It was fine. It was good. But, like, that was my favorite system. Probably still is. I mean, you can make arguments like the Nintendo DS has a more robust library and a lot of SNES games in it. Or, like, the Game Boy Advance had a lot of Super Nintendo games or whatever. There's, 3 Super Nintendo games in the top 5, right? Because World, Link to the Past, Super Metroid in the top 4.
Yeah.
3 of the top 4 are Super Nintendo games? 3 of the top 4? And that's from the guy who loves it. What happened?
They never actually came out with what the point system was on this. Like,
No.
when we did our list, we had some wonky ones on there because one person voted it high and it threw it so much higher on the list than it would have been otherwise. I wonder if something like that happened in this instance, where like nobody voted this game number 1, but everybody voted it high, so it by default got up.
I'm trying to imagine who the panel was. Like, you have to imagine IGN's had a lot of newer hiders over the years, right? Including a lot of people who probably haven't played these games at all.
Maybe not.
Maybe.
I would think not now based on this list.
But you would figure you'd have an eclectic mix of old and new people at IGN, the biggest like gaming journal there is, basically.
Yeah,
That's
and I wonder if that's what happened with Portal 2 as well. Like, people voted it, but like everybody had it in like a middle range, and it just boosted it.
Who knows? There's so many things that we could critiqued on this list that it just... I guess that's what's going to happen on lists for the most part, but this many things feels just off.
It just fell apart in the top 50.
Yeah.
Really, the top 40. The 40 through 100 was like mostly fine, and then you start getting into the 30s, and it just falls apart.
With the 30s, like 3 of the 30s could have been in the top 10.
Yeah.
It'd be, all right, I can see that.
It felt like IGN was like, you know what? We want a new list. We don't want to be bound by tradition. We're gonna end, but then they ended up going with fucking Mario World.
Mario World is number 1. We don't have tradition. Let's put Mario and Zelda 3 out of the top 5.
Yeah.
There was no Guitar Hero on this list after the Rock Band inclusion. I loved Rock Band. I thought I was better than Guitar Hero, but again, if you're making your list based on importance, that's wrong. There's no Sonic on this list.
None.
There's no Kingdom Hearts on this list. I don't think it should be way up there or anything, but the fact that there's no games anywhere feels a little bit wrong to me. I'm trying to go through other franchises that I'm thinking of that weren't on this list. God. I guess Persona made it. The Arkham games made it.
Dude, JRPGs did not get a lot of love.
No.
They really didn't. And
Considering where Persona was. RPGs in general didn't get a lot of love.
yeah.
That could be part of the problem. Maybe Ocarina of Time looks like an RPG, so it went down the list.
Yeah, shooters got plenty of love.
Platformers, lots of love. I don't know. It's like you said. It's a ton of Nintendo games, but only very top heavy. It's Valve out the wazoo. It's shooters and it's Blizzard games. And there's so much more out there than that.
Yeah, but that's what's this. I mean, this is what sells too. I mean, if you look at just how things sell, those are the ones that make a lot of money. So that probably has some sort of influence.
Probably.
There's no Kirby game on this list,
Wow, that's
including Superstar.
The one on Nintendo. I don't remember the exact name of that Kirby. It was the first one that was on Nintendo. It was fantastic. Kirby's Dream Star or something.
I guess technically Donkey Kong was on the list, but like Donkey Kong Country.
Yeah, that was a fantastic game.
Probably should be on this list somewhere, especially if everybody loves the Super Nintendo so much.
Mm-hmm.
No Crash Bandicoot on this list. No Mortal Kombat on this list.
Whew.
Again, that probably should be in like the 80s or something, but no Mortal Kombat was kind of important. It spawned congressional hearings.
When Street Fighter's 15 and there's no Mortal Kombat, that's probably something happened.
Oblivion was on the list, right? We had an Elder Scrolls that was in like the 60s or something.
I thought Skyrim was on it.
Oblivion was not.
Oblivion was not in Skyrim. Well, some people won't love that. Interesting. Well, a 2.5 out of 10. I think I get the list.
Yeah, it was, yeah. Again, I was okay with it for a while, and then like, holy shit.
And all of it is subjective, sure. So as I go blurry face, there I am. As all of it's subjective, so I mean, it's fine. At the end of the day, it's whatever. It's their list. It's what they chose to do. But it's like when you are sort of like the gaming standard in the industry, it feels like a little bit more care should go into this.
I'm realizing now how mad you made me, Chris, by pointing out that Sonic 3 is not on this list. Sonic 3 is a fantastic game, and
it is
nowhere on this list.
And the first one's not on the list. What was... You telling me 100 games were more important and or better than the first one? I like 2 and 3 better, and 3 is really, really good. But I'm like, by their own rules, the first one better be on here somewhere. It's the only reason Sega managed to have a foothold against Nintendo in the 90s.
Mm-hmm. It's true.
There were 100 games better than that?
No.
Okay. Minecraft is 24, but Sonic is nowhere on this list. Okay.
Monkey's Island 2.
Yeah.
Yeah. Look, I mean, we're going to have our own opinions. We haven't even played some of these games on this list. Maybe they're super good, but even just based on the ones we have played, it's not a good list. So you can even argue there's no Star Fox on here. I mean, we made the mistake of having a 24 on our list, but I'm just saying maybe Star Fox 64 could be in the 90s.
It's fun. At least
Seem unreasonable. I don't know. All right, well,
I wonder if we should do games or like series.
Series would be fun, I think.
Well, I'm wondering because then it kind of solves the problem of like, well, do you go Metal Gear Solid 2 or 4 or 1? And you can repeat that question for like how many series? Zelda's.
Yeah.
We've done series. We could redo it.
Oh, I don't even remember that. Jesus.
Yeah, I mean,
We've
Zelda
done a lot of things over the last 7 years.
Zelda was number 1. I'll guarantee you that.
I think that is deserved, actually.
We've done them. I mean, the problem then is like, do you weigh like the best games in the series more? Like, how much do the bad games hurt it? It's it's all tough. It's all subjective. Here, I'll pull it up real quick just so the viewers and listeners can see.
Okay.
Top 5 series is Zelda, Mario, Ace Attorney, Final Fantasy. So we have too many fans of it in the voting panel.
Yeah.
Final Fantasy 4, Mass Effect 5, Pokemon 6, Metroid 7, Kingdom Hearts 8, Mario Kart 9, Smash Brothers 10. It goes on, but
it's not terrible except for Ace Attorney.
Yeah, which I love.
Yeah, it's great.
And I think we had all just played one recently because I think 5 had just come out when we did this. So that's part of the problem is recency bias. I wouldn't mind if it was like 9th. Just because of how important it is to everybody in the panel. 3rd's probably not a great look. So look, everybody makes mistakes. It's all fine.
And this is just the biggest tyrant in gaming industry. So whatever.
Yeah, it's not a
big
big
deal. They make mistakes. No big deal.
Can't spell ignorant without IGN. Got him. That's the end of this episode. In between shows, you can find us at our website, objectionnetwork.com, where we make top 25 lists of our own that are sometimes good and sometimes meh. Mostly good, I think, but there's some weird ones. You can also find us on social media, but don't bother. They're there if you want to try them. If you support us, maybe we'll come back. It's on you. And you can find us at youtube.com/objectionnetwork. That one's still alive and well, doing better than ever. Trails of Cold Steel 3 is there. And finally, you can send emails to the show to objectionnetwork@gmail.com. See you next time.